It's Conversation with the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank on DBS Radio and GIS Channel this Wednesday, 10th May at 8 p.m. Join me, Ivona Jno Baptiste Lugay, as I engage Governor Timothy Antoine in discussion on developments and prospects for the Commonwealth of Dominica. We will also discuss other issues of national development and what the ECCB is doing to maintain the stability of the banking sector and improve the well-being of the citizens of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. You can be part of this live conversation. Call or send a message via WhatsApp to 275-8003 or via the ECCB Connects Facebook page or YouTube channel. Conversation with the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank this Wednesday at 8 p.m. on DBS Radio and GIS Channel. Also catch the live stream on the ECCB Connects Facebook page and YouTube channel. This Wednesday, 10th May. Conversation with the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECCB, Timothy N.J. Antoine. My name is Ivona Jno Baptiste Lugay. I am the Program Director at the National Broadcaster DBS Radio, and I currently hold the position of Acting Manager at this time. We are the studios of GIS in Dominica, the nature island of the Caribbean. Governor Antoine is from Grenada, the Spice Isle of the Caribbean. Governor Antoine, it is a pleasure to welcome you to Dominica.
Thank you, Ivona. It's great to be back in the Nature Isle. And let me just say greetings and good evening to all our viewers and listeners, wherever you are in the Currency Union or around the world.
Of course, your position has made you a true example of what regional integration is all about.
That is correct.
And you would have taken up that post 2016.
February 2016.
How has it been so far, Governor?
It's been great. It's just over 7 years. It feels like 5. Maybe it's the pandemic, but together with the team at the bank, and of course working with our board and the Monetary Council, all of our finance ministers, most of whom are prime ministers, we've accomplished quite a bit in those years, and I've embraced the challenge fully. And of course, along the way, we've had our ups and downs. Hurricanes Irma and Maria in 2017, then of course the pandemic, volcanic eruption in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, now high inflation, which goes to show the shocks keep coming. And as a region, we have to continually look to be building resilience. But it's been a great experience, and I enjoy serving the people of our currency union. I really do.
I have put together a list of questions, Governor, so I'm looking forward to an enlightening conversation with you this evening. You would have had a very packed schedule in Dominica. Tell us about this. You would have met with the Prime Minister and other civil society as well, trade unions, the banking sector. Tell us about this.
Yes, so it's been quite packed, and as we normally would do it for the last few days. In fact, on Monday we started with a visit to the farm of Kondwani Williams. Really impressed with what he's doing there with his team, because food and nutrition security is so important for our region. And of course, he's also getting into the tourism aspect, linking food, linking agriculture with tourism, which I think is very, very important. So that was great. And then, of course, met with the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, had really good discussions. Monday evening, met the President of the Commonwealth of Dominica on Tuesday morning, followed by the Cabinet. And then in the afternoon, we met with the Leader of Opposition and her team. Today we met with social partners, including civil society, business, labor unions, youth, churches, and this afternoon we met with our bankers and credit union. The NCCU was there as well. So it's been quite good. And just to say, tomorrow obviously we have the members of the media, but we also be making visits to the Rosa Primary School, which is our mentorship school, and the Dominica State College. That is very important for us, those contacts with our youth, those engagements with our youth. So we always look forward to having engagement with the youth.
And I'm very pleased that you said this, because of course the young people are at the forefront of change.
Indeed.
And I'm really pleased that the ECCB has seen it fit to engage young people, especially at this time?
Yes, I'm a young person myself. Just kidding. No, we feel it's very important, and we don't see the youth as the future. We see the youth as the present. We see the future as now. And, you know, recently, for example, we had a songwriting competition, and I was making a point to our young people. When we give you the platform, use your platform, the platform we give you to give expression to your needs, your aspirations, your views, and not just try to shape the conversation, but change the world. So for us, engaging our youth is extremely important. And you know, as we get into some of the items, the issues, the questions, we could highlight things that we're doing with our young people in the region.
Definitely. Governor Antoine, you would have seen challenges, you would have seen successes, hurdles, times, stumbling blocks at times during your tenure. Of course, we alluded to the fact that you started in 2016, and of course you sought another term in office, so you're on another term in office. But what would you describe really as your highlights in your tenure, the highlights of your tenure so far, and what does 40 years of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank mean to you?
Well, highlight for me is the position I'm in to serve the people of the currency union. I love people, and I love serving people. So to explain that, I have to tell you the top life values for me are family, faith, and service. And therefore, I have a strong love for serving. And for me, the greatest joy in my tenure as governor thus far is working with the team at ECCB, the board, the Monetary Council, but serving the people of the currency union. You know, meeting them, hearing from them, responding as best as we can to their needs, their concerns, and trying to make the bank work for them. Because as I tell them when I see them, you know, when we engage, we work for you. Our central bank is your central bank. This is your bank, and therefore that is the single greatest joy. But certainly working with the team, building up, we have over the last 6 years received 6 global awards as a central bank. That's teamwork. And a lot of it has to do with the focus we've had on innovations to improve the currency union, improve what we do, how we serve, how we impact people. So that, for me, I would say is the single biggest joy.
Governor Antoine, before we move on to the meat of the matter, let me say as a citizen of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union that I am proud of what I've seen in recent time with the ECCB, of course. I grew up learning that cricket, culture, music, they solidify us as Caribbean people, the bonds that we share. But the ECCB is becoming a household name, and I can speak for Dominica as well. You have a team that have run on programs on radio and on social media. So the ECCB is seeing radio as very relevant in this time, and this augurs well, of course, bringing us closer together. You have programs like Financial Information Month. I've listened to some lecture series on health and wellness, food and security, and these are important. Is it deliberate?
Very deliberate. When I assumed office back in February 2016, I committed the bank as a chief public servant in the bank to make the bank more accessible to the people of the currency union, to make it plain, make it simple. In fact, the words I used then was to raise the veil so that people could look in and see the bank and really understand what the central bank does for them, what it means to them, and for us to be able to improve our service. And one of the first things we started, in the very first week, we went on Facebook, right? Social media. First week. And then we came up with the podcast ECCB Connects. And here I want to give a shout out to Sherman Kirby, who leads that team, Marlon Bristol, who joined the team shortly thereafter, and there are others like Shana, Derek, and Karina Phillips Somersall, and Arrange, Brent Drago, and Nigel Brown, and the team has grown. But what we wanted to do then was to make this ECCB more accessible. A lot of people saw the ECCB as some kind of entity out there, and we wanted to make the bank relevant. And when I move around the currency union, one of the things I hear very often, what you just said, I'm hearing the ECCB, I'm feeling the ECCB like I have not done before. And that means we clearly are impacting people, we're doing something right. So that was deliberate. And you mentioned the things we were doing, and if I could just say, when we started, a lot of the content we generated on our weekly podcast, ECCB Connects, was from us internally in the bank, staff, like manager and myself. But what we've done in recent times, especially during the pandemic and since, is to co-create. So we have brought people in from the currency union and even other parts of the world to bring content to the people of the currency union. And in fact, as you may know, we were recently awarded by central banking, which is a global award among central banks across the world for communications. And we were cited for the work we've done, including not just reaching people, but bringing people in and co-creating. So that is one. Quickly, I just mentioned the Children's Connection radio program, which is aired in Dominica every second Sunday on DBS and I believe Q95, I think, 1 p.m. And that program is a way, again, to get our children involved, make the terms accessible to them, and build their confidence, give them a chance to express themselves, and to really see them grow up, and take responsibility as responsible financial actors. So those are just two examples. And then you mentioned Financial Information Month. I now call it Film Festival because it's taken on, quite a life. And I want to recognize all the film partners in Dominica, who work with us, ECCB, every year in the month of October, which is our anniversary month, to shine a light on financial literacy and empowerment and resilience, whether it's pensions, retirement, small business, online, a range of issues that are important for our people, and to again advance this whole notion of financial literacy and inclusion. So there's a lot to do, but we're encouraged by what we've been doing so far. And the response, the feedback is what energizes us to continue this journey.
ECCB has placed a stamp on regional integration. Surely this all is well for us. But Governor Antoine, how strong is the EC dollar amidst global challenges?
Yes.
We have the pandemic,
yes,
the natural disasters, inflation, and there may be more.
Yes.
And permit me to add as well, how do we manage these shocks?
Right. So, good question. And I'm pleased to confirm tonight, as I've done all week, that our EC dollar remains very strong. At this moment, our EC dollar is backed in foreign reserves by 91.6, almost 92 cents. So in simple terms, for every one EC dollar in circulation with demand liabilities, we have 92 cents in foreign reserves. The law requires us to be always back at least 60%. As we speak, that is close to 91.6, 92%. Now, when the pandemic started, March 2020, announced by the World Health Organization, the backing was just over 100, 100.6. It came down as we expected it would. In fact, in April 2020, when I addressed the currency union, I did indicate exactly that. The backing will go down because of the pandemic, but have no fears, we will be well above the legal requirement, and we'll be fine. And so said, so done. It came down to around 90, and it's starting to go back up. It's close to 92, and we expect it to go back up. Because remember, during this period, there was a time, no tourism, no foreign exchange coming in. It was a very difficult period for the region. But I wonder what this proved is that our focus on maintaining a strong dollar in the Eastern Caribbean over the last, not just 40 years, which is the life of our central bank. We celebrated 40 years this year. But you go back to 1976, July, when the leaders then made the decision to peg the US dollar, the EC, to the US dollar. Before that, we were pegged to pound sterling. 1 pound sterling was 4.80 EC dollars. We moved to the US dollar because it was recognized that the US is now our major trading partner. And so it moved 1 US to 2.7 EC. And that value has been maintained throughout the last 47 years. How have we been able to do that? By maintaining very strong reserves, so foreign reserves. So even global financial crisis, hurricane, the pandemic, high inflation, we've been able to keep the dollar strong because we keep the reserves high, and that has served our region very well. You look around the region, and I don't want to call any names, there are some countries larger than us that cannot say the same in terms of the value of their currency. We have one of the strongest currencies. So we, as a region, we ought to take pride in what we have accomplished there. And the enduring lesson for us is that when we come together as small states, we have the capacity to craft arrangements that work for us. And we have to look no further than the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. And when I say this, I hail my predecessors, the founders and framers, the people of the currency union, past and present, for what we have been able to do together. And we have to continue to work together to build our countries and our region.
Governor, I want to put this in the context of Dominica, because we have been dealt with so much in a short space of time.
Yes.
So help us understand what the ECCB is doing to help the region confront the challenges of climate change in particular, Dominica in particular.
Right. So just to see, Dominica is resilience personified. You just think about all of the shocks over the last decade. You can go before that, but Erica Maria, COVID, inflation, and all the seasonal storms, flash floods, and everything in between. To see how difficult it has been, and yet the people of Dominica have shown themselves to be resilient, and they're building. I remember coming here in September 2017 after Maria, and seeing the country, flat, as we would say, and to see how you've recovered, how you're recovering, the rebuilding that has taken place, is a tremendous credit to the people, the government, and people of Dominica. And the thing about it is, a lot of the pledges never came. A lot of pledges were made, a lot of pledges didn't come, and the government and people of Dominica worked together. The government had some savings; it was able to deploy those savings to assist in that period, and that was a very, very difficult period. So you ask me how can we help? How are we helping? At ECCB, we do three things: we advocate, we advise, and we act. Those are triple A: advocacy, advice, action. So in terms of advocacy, for example, we advocate for the preservation of the citizenship by investment programs. We understand those programs are very important for Dominica and for the people of our region. And in fact, without CBI resources, Dominica would not have been able to achieve the kind of recovery, because like I just said, many of the pledges never materialized or took quite a while. Some of them have still not arrived. So CBI is important. Prime Minister Skerritt has been leading the regional, has been providing, coordinating at the leadership level of heads in our engagement recently, for example, with the United States, because we have entered into a dialogue, agreed on some commitments to strengthen the programs and to ensure that the programs could continue to bring benefit to the people of our region. We add our voice to that. A few weeks ago, I was in Washington meeting with the U.S. Treasury following up on that issue. That's an example of advocacy. We give advice. We give advice on fiscal matters. We give advice on financial sector issues. For example, we craft legislation, Banking Act, amendments, ECCB agreement, payment systems, securities, a range of things we give advice on. And we then share with our members through the council, Monetary Council, for enactment in the Parliament. And then we take action. So for example, after the pandemic broke out, we provided grants. In fact, after Maria, we provided grants to Dominica, for example, to assist with the recovery. I remember we gave $1 million grant up front. After the pandemic, when the pandemic broke, we provided grants to assist with PPE and also to help with the vaccines, getting the vaccines over from India. We provided support there. We provided support for equipment. We do practical things. We have recently now been a very strong advocate for renewable energy. Dominica has the potential, as we know, to really be a leader in energy in our region through the geothermal project. We want to see that project get over the line. And one of the things we're working on now is a renewable energy investment infrastructure facility, which is aimed at doing two things. One, providing support in the policy regulatory space to help governments make their regimes more attractive for investment, inward investment, local investment, but also financing, because that is a big challenge in our region. Getting financing to implement renewable projects, whether it's geothermal, solar PV, wind, or whatever. So those are just some examples of how we work with our governments, with the government of Dominica specifically, to build and help support the agenda, the development agenda.
Well, let's stay a little on the geothermal energy development project, and I want to touch a little on the CBI program as well.
Mm-hmm.
Governor Antoine, in terms of geothermal energy in Dominica, we have seen tremendous progress being made in that area. 2 production wells have been completed.
Yes.
Also the drilling of a reinjection well, as well. What is your take on this move towards energy efficient Dominica?
Well, I think that's key. I don't see how we transform Dominica or how we will transform our region, the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, the 8 member countries, without energy transformation. We cannot continue to rely on importing energy, because what we do is that we put our economies at the mercy of oil exporters, the vagaries of the oil market, and we see it. Oil prices go up and they go down. And an economist, they will tell you one of the hardest things to predict, in fact you better not try, is where oil prices will go. Because a lot of the pricing is driven by geopolitical developments, over which we have no control. So it is in our best interests, national and regional interests, to develop renewable energy so that we have energy security. As a practical matter, we are paying some of the highest rates for electricity in the Western Hemisphere. We meaning the Caribbean, including the EC, CCU. And the fact of the matter, 35, 40 US cents per kilowatt hour, that is outrageously high. You compare that with the United States, where it's 8 cents, 10 cents, Trinidad, we have to cut that. And if you think about how that will impact households, how it will impact the government, the public finances, businesses, we must, and I emphasize must, move to renewable energy. That is an absolute non-negotiable. So as long as it takes, as hard as it is, we have to persevere. And yes, the government and the people of Dominica have made great strides with geothermal. I know it's taken a while, but there are many rivers to cross, as they would say, but we get in there and we will get over that line. I'm confident we will. We must. But transformation in the region is not possible without addressing energy.
Governor Antoine, a few years ago you stated that the coming together of the region's citizenship by investment program is needed. Do you still share that view?
Yeah, I think that's important. At the end of the day, this notion that we are competing against each other is folly, and frankly spoken, is ill-advised. We are seen as a brand. So while Dominica has its programs in Kitts and Nevis, Grenada, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Lucia, 5 of our 8 member countries, CBI, we're seen as a brand, we're seen as one. So, notwithstanding the heroic efforts of one member country or two, the weaknesses of one is the weaknesses of all. Our best chance at preserving citizenship by investment and making it work for us is for us to come together. And that's what we're doing now. So the coming together, as I pointed to, with the Prime Minister's Kerry coordinating that effort with the US government recently, is an example of what we must do. There's a CBI unit, there is an association. That association, we want it to become even more active. And now that we are engaged in this new way, you will see more collaboration. Because this idea of competing and dropping price to get, we believe the market is large enough for everybody to get their fair share. And we feel that it is best if we come together, have common standards. So a simple example. If one application is denied in country A, it ought not to be approved in country B. But we have to share that information. Share it so that we avoid pitfalls and we avoid making mistakes. We believe that even on pricing, we could collaborate more and get better pricing, as in higher returns from the program. So rather than competing and the race to the bottom, we believe that together we can actually get improved pricing. We have a premium brand, and it's for us to recognize that. So I firmly believe in the coming together, and the central bank is available, and we, to support our member countries with respect to citizenship measures.
So you said essentially that we need to have a more harmonized environment.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, sometime last year, Governor, you stated that, and I want to leave the CBI for a while and go and look at the economic landscape. Sometime last year, you stated that the growth performance, and I'm trying to get to exact words, will be influenced, I think, by geopolitical factors. Is this a clear indication that global growth is expected to slow in 2023?
It has slowed. Fact, it has slowed. If you look at where the global economy was last year, coming out of the pandemic, to where it is this year, it has slowed. And obviously, a lot of that has to do with the war in Ukraine. Here we are, minding our own business, but impacted by an event many miles away that has affected food prices, energy prices, fertilizer prices, yes? And we have to deal with it. And that has put a damper on growth. In other words, we would be growing even faster were it not for the war in Ukraine and of course related sanctions. As a consequence of the war, we, our governments, are no longer processing applications from Russia and Belarus. That's significant revenue that we are losing. That's a direct consequence of that war, an adverse impact for us in the Eastern Caribbean. We didn't start the war, we have no business in the war. So that's a geopolitical event that is impacting us in real time as we speak. The prices we see in the supermarket, some of those are directly related to, because yes, prices rose during the pandemic because of supply chain disruptions, but then those ease. But as those ease and things started to settle down and things were coming back down, then the war broke out. Shortages of all manner of things, holding by some countries because they are worried about shortages. The weaponization of food, fertilizer, those things have hurt us. And as small countries, we import all of these things. All of these things we import. So again, that's a lesson for us to do even more in respect of food and nutrition security. So not just energy, which we spoke about earlier, but as a region, food and nutrition security has to be a major focus. And Dominica has to lead the charge in the current scheme. You are best positioned to do that. So that target of reducing our food import bill by 25% by 2025 has to be pursued with vigor. It's a stretch target, it's not easy, but we have to pursue it. And like we've been saying, if we're going to pursue that, you must tackle 3 particular categories. Meat, grains, that includes cereal, breakfast products, oats and all of that, and fruits and vegetables. Because those 3 categories account for more than 50% of the basket. Dominica is well placed to move forward on that, in fact lead on that, while every country does its best to hit the target or at least get close to the target.
And I want to look at that after the break.
Okay.
Very important issue, agriculture.
Yes.
Food security.
Food.
We have to look at this.
Yes.
I want to look at this when we come back. You are listening to Conversation and viewing as well to Conversation with Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Timothy N.J. Antoine. We'll be back in a moment.
The future is here, everybody Everybody must be aware. The cash taking easy digital. You don't need to use money physically. You could use a phone to send, receive, and so much more. The cash safer, faster, cheaper, so get it up on your mobile phone. Everybody rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. We spending easy dollars digitally. Rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. We spending easy dollars digitally.
The easy dollar is digital. Make payments safer, faster, and cheaper with Dcash.
The future is here. Everybody must be aware. The cash taking easy digital. You don't need to use money physically. You could use your phone to send, receive, and so much more. The cash safer, faster, cheaper, so get it up on your mobile phone. Everybody rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. We spending easy dollars digitally. Rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. We spending easy dollars digitally.
The easy dollar is digital. Make payments safer, faster, and cheaper with Dcash.
Conversation with the governor of the ECCB. Of course, he's on a mission throughout the Caribbean, and this time he is in Dominica, and it's a pleasure to have him here. Governor Antoine, there's a lot I want to look at, obviously, the banking sector and so many other issues I want to look at. But I want to stay on the economy a little. In my preparation for this conversation with you, Governor Antoine, I read about the IMF's work on the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. So there's an article which states that Dominican economy is expanding strongly, but faces headwinds from global inflationary shocks in fact. What should Dominica keep doing, and what should we consider implementing?
Well, I think you already have a focus on the important things. And during this week, we affirmed that and sort of encourage the government and people of Dominica in the areas that we call the theaters of transformation. What are those theaters? Food and nutrition security, renewable energy, digital transformation, skills, absolutely important for developing the country. Those are some of the key areas, of course, investing in infrastructure. So the key really now is for the country to rally, to do more and, well, to do it even faster. A lot of the growth in Dominica, while subject to external matters like inflation and all of that, is really now the speed at which we can implement projects, whether it's in the public sector or the private sector. That means obviously, you know, if you're in the public service, you need to obviously be doing your very best to push the country forward. If you're in the private sector, you need to be putting on all the stops to get the projects implemented. And obviously, the public and private sector have to work together, because in a lot of cases, one, you need the other. The private sector needs the government to set up the enabling environment with incentives, and the private sector needs to get on with it. The public service obviously needs to deliver key services to citizens and include facilitating investment. So we think some of the things that are, so let me be specific. The international airport, move forward on that, and clearly that is going to go forward. The recent development with respect to the new university coming to replace Ross, key for Portsmouth and the surrounding areas. The focus on building out key infrastructure, obviously continue to work on housing, those are critical things. The renewable energy, digital transformation. So I think the menu is there. I think the focus is appropriate. I just think we need to push harder, make sure that everybody understands the vision, and we pull it in the same direction. Because when you're small, you really need to pull together. You know, that's something I say all the time across the currency union. It makes a huge difference when we come together and we pull in together. We were great at a cricket team, not so much these days, because we came together as small islands. We're great at a central bank because we've come together as small islands. And I think the government and people of Dominica have to continue to collaborate in terms of pushing the development agenda forward. On food, I particularly feel strongly, and I said this already, that Dominica has to, you already export food, but you have to take it to scale. So one of the questions we've been asking this week, everyone, is what will it take to double the size of Dominica's GDP over the next, say, decade? Dominica's GDP right now is 1.2 billion. What will it take to double that? And what is your role and my role? We have to understand our role in pursuit of that goal. And when we say GDP, it's not just about the economy and it's not just about numbers, it's really about opportunity. Opportunity for people to express themselves, for people to grow, for people to be their best selves, to fulfill their potential, for young people to dream dreams and pursue their dreams, their ambitions. So that is a term of art to simply talk about how we expand the pie. More of us share that pie and we pursue our best selves. That is a challenge that we've been putting to Dominica and in fact the currency.
Let me just inform our listeners that you too can participate, our listeners and our viewers, of course, you too can participate. The telephone number is 275-8003. You could call and you could also send a WhatsApp message to that number. And in a short while, we'll take some of the questions. I think they are coming in already. But Governor, in recent years, we have seen tremendous changes in the banking milieu in the region as a result of a paradigm shift, I would imagine, globally. Just this year in Dominica, we saw the withdrawal of the Canadian bank. So banks are pulling out in the region. Help us understand what this means, because people are concerned.
Yeah, I understand that. The truth is a lot has happened quickly. In the last 3-4 years, as you said, the Canadian banks, several of them have left our region. And so people ask why. And so the truth of the matter is that while the Canadian banks were making money in our region, they felt they could make more elsewhere. So when they are making these decisions in boardrooms in Toronto, Canada, for example, they ask a simple question. How much money did I make in Dominica last year? How much did I make in Jamaica? Bahamas, Mexico. That's okay. So I made 10 million in the Eastern Caribbean. I made 25 in Jamaica. I made 50 in Bahamas. I made 150 in Mexico. Well, let's go to Mexico. Let's take our capital and go. Those are the hard decisions they're making. And people have to understand that. There's no sympathy for small states. And the people who are making these decisions, by the way, their bonus is tied to profitability. Their prospects for upward mobility in our region is tied to those sorts of things. Just understand corporate and what is going on in the corporate world. So they have moved on. I think it is also true that they were getting a lot of stiff competition from indigenous banks and of course credit unions. The market has changed. 20 years ago, Canadian banks dominated the space. The indigenous banks have become bigger. For example, here National Bank of Dominica, the credit unions have emerged. NCCU, for example, is now bigger than some of our smallest banks. The credit unions came together, merged, consolidated. So the landscape has changed. It's changed for the Canadian banks, it has changed for us who live here. And so what we're seeing is a shift from a time when the Canadian banks dominated the landscape to a time now where the indigenous banks control almost 70% of banking assets in the currency.
There should be a sense of pride.
It should be. We like to say, let us control the commanding heights of the economy. That includes banking and the key sectors of the economy, industry and so on. Well, we now control banking. So now, the onus is on us to demonstrate continually that we can meet the moment. That having been entrusted that responsibility, we can in fact deliver for the people. The scripture says, to whom much is given, much is required. our indigenous banks, I believe, are capable of stepping up to the moment. And so, as a central bank, one of the things for us is that we pay very close attention to our banks in terms of supervision. Every few weeks we are in one of our banks examining on site what they do.
Because I was about to ask you if the ECCB has implemented strategies recently to maintain the stability of the sector.
No. We have to. We understand what is in front of us. We are out in the field. We absolutely issue standards. So all the time. We issued a standard recently on technology to help manage risk in the cyberspace in our banks. We issued standards on impaired assets, bad loans. We issued standards on a range of things, valuation, a range of things. We continue to do that. And of course, we continue to constantly monitor, supervise our indigenous banks and all of our licensees for that matter, including any Canadian banks still in the space. So that is something we must continue to do, because at the end of the day, what do people want to know? What's the question they want answered? Is my money safe? When I go to the bank for my deposit, I can get my deposit. That's what they want to know. So we take that very seriously, and we continue to provide the oversight for the financial institutions under our watch. What I've said to the banks, and I know they appreciate that point, is that they have to continue to demonstrate and to continue to improve customer service. I will also tell you, we have heard complaints from people about issues like bank fees and charges. Yes. About maybe sometimes how they feel the bank has treated them or not treated them. And I want to say, in response to those concerns, we've heard you, and we are now in the process of setting up an Office of Financial Conduct and Financial Inclusion at the Central Bank. And that will allow us to install, among other things, an Office Financial Ombudsman to help adjudicate on complaints from customers, bank customers, and others around the region. Because right now, the law does not allow ECCB to adjudicate these things. If you call and complain, we will probably make a call and inquire and try to see how we could use moral suasion. On the question of fees, for example, a bank can increase fees. They don't need our permission. A bank does not need the permission of the central bank to increase fees. All they're required to do is to give the customer 30 days notice. So we may ask the question, are these fees reasonable? What's the basis for that? Have you given notice? But we have no authority in the law to say, no, don't implement that, or reduce that. What have we done in the meantime is to put on our website periodically the fees of all banks across the currency union, so the customers could sort of compare and contrast and make their own decisions. Transparency around fees, and that's something we continue to do. But clearly, there is a need for some market conduct, some authority to be able to help with this question of consumer protection in the financial services sphere. And I want to be clear, the idea of the Office of Financial Conduct is not just for banks. The idea it is for all financial services. So whether it's credit union and insurance. In practical terms, the regulator for banks, credit unions and insurers and so on, which is national, here in Dominica, the FSU, we will have a collaboration. Yes, because legally the regulator is the FSU, whereas for banks it is the ECCB. But we must have a shared collaboration in terms of working on this issue of market conduct for our people. So I want to just say that is work that we are proceeding with very briskly, because we recognize that it's important.
I want to delve a little deeper into the credit union aspects of it, but let me just take a question from someone who has transcribed his question to text. And he's saying, Governor Antoine, apart from the CBI, what advice can you or have given to the government of Dominica in obtaining a sustainable economy? I think we alluded to that. You touched on that earlier on, but you could also emphasize again.
Yeah, well, no, I think we continue to have a good open dialogue, as we do with all our governments. Now, the truth of the matter is, we have said, for example, with CBI, what you do with CBI is important. How you use the resources. We've been very clear, you don't want to use CBI for recurrent expenditure. You don't want to use it for paid salaries and paying utilities. You want to use it for investing in the productive sector, in the transformational sectors, and you want to invest it as well in debt reduction, because to the extent that you save, you then are able to deploy for other activities, whether it's education, health, housing, and so on. I think generally the government has been doing that. Obviously, after Maria, they had to make some hard decisions because, the country needed every cent it could get to help speed up the recovery, and obviously we had to move away from that. But as I understand it, that is a commitment by the government, and we'll be very clear, because not only is it the right thing to do, but we also have to be mindful. As I've said before, we don't know how long the CBI will last. We want it to last a long time because it's a very important program for our people. But we have to build in such a way that, God forbid, CBI disappears, we can still function, and so we give, obviously, we give advice on national health insurance, for example. It's an important idea, but it's a very expensive concept, expensive to implement. So we'll be very particular. There's some guidelines we say, if you're going to pursue national health insurance, be very careful. Here are 3-4 things that you need to be doing. Practical things. Obviously, the fiscal area. We give advice on fiscal resilience frameworks. We give advice on hurricane clauses. Putting in these things in our debt contracts so that we could have an ability to stand still. Very simple. How does hurricane clause work? In the event of a major hit, a major hurricane, for example, you ought to be able to stop servicing your debt for a period of time, whether it's 1 year, 2 years. Use that liquidity to help you recover and rebuild, and then resume servicing. It's similar to the moratorium, for example, during the pandemic that the banks gave, but it needs to be upfront. It has to be agreed on with creditors, and you can't do that when you get a hit. You're not in a strong position to negotiate, and frankly, you don't have the time and energy. You focus on recovery. And I know that from hard experience after Hurricane Ivan in 2004, when I was then Financial Secretary in Grenada. So that was pioneered in Grenada, first 2014, 2015. Barbados then took it to a whole other level. It is now the single largest issue of debt contracts with what we call hurricane clauses or climate resilient debt instruments. But we're saying we need to see that across all debt contracts, new contracts going forward. And I'm pleased to say that is gaining traction internationally. We have advocated strongly for that. Our central bank, myself, obviously, I've led that charge. And in fact, at the level of G7 now, the UK and Canada have embraced that, and we are seeing some movement in that direction, the support of the IMF and World Bank as well. So we chipping away at it, but that's an example of advice that we have been given, just to give you a couple of examples.
There's another question as well from the public. What would it take to lower the exchange rate? Would it be possible, and what would be the pros and cons of this?
To lower the exchange rate. So I assume the person is saying to lower it from 2.7 to say 2 to 1. I assume that's what it means. And I think what it would take is that we have to get a lot more productive, grow our economies faster, and generate more foreign exchange. So to the extent that we're able to transition to renewables, for example, where we save in foreign exchange, a dollar saved, a dollar earned in foreign exchange terms, to the extent that we're able to take food to the next another level, and we reduce our importation of food, because last year or year before we spent $1.6 billion on food, for example. If we could do those things, the theater of transformation, then we might have additional foreign exchange and foreign reserves to take another look at the valuation of the exchange rate, at the parity, and see whether we could move it down from, say, 2.7 to 2. But there are other implications as well that we have to understand with that, in terms of our debt servicing arrangements, the cost. So it's not a simple issue. But when you do that, you also have to understand that the cost of your tourism, for example, will go up because we export tourism. So your exports will rise, the cost of the exports. In a world where we are small and are price takers, we have to understand that's in a very competitive tourism market, global market, where we have a very small share in the global scheme of things. There are implications for competitiveness. So it has to be carefully studied. It's nice to say, okay, 2 to 1, but what are the implications of that? And I mentioned a few debt exports possible. So, but I think even to have that conversation, we will have to have significant more foreign reserves coming in from productive sectors, especially tourism, food, energy, in terms of the transformation.
Someone is also asking, Governor, what is the ECCB doing to facilitate access and encourage investment on the regional securities exchange?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah, it is, because it is tied to our view on this whole notion of wealth creation. And by the way, we see wealth creation as a key element of building resilience at a personal level, at a household level. And I've cited this many times, and I will do so again this evening. In the United States, almost 3 in 5 persons, 60%, invest in the US stock market, generate wealth, generate income and wealth from the US stock market. What is that number in the ECC, Ivona? 4%. 4%, 1 in 25. We are missing an opportunity to tap the regional and international capital market to help generate wealth. We are good savers. As we speak, we have $25 billion in savings in the currency union. But when it comes to investing in the financial markets, we have not done it so well. We invest in real estate, we invest in business, which is good, fine. But there's also another opportunity to invest in the financial markets. So it's about savings and investing. Saving and investing. So what are we doing? Very soon, in a matter of a few weeks, you're going to hear about a mutual fund, which is to allow people to be able to buy units and have access to regional and international capital markets. That's an important step. We are working on education with respect to linking our stock exchange with the other stock exchanges and using BlockStation, a Canadian outfit, to allow people to be able to trade in virtual assets in a safe way. We are in discussions, we've been looking at the Jamaica experience, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, with the Junior Stock Exchange, and looking to see how we could bring some similar type framework arrangement to the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. The Home Mortgage Bank, which I chair, has in fact been making more and more of its corporate paper available to not just institutional investors, but individual investors. But the truth is that at the moment, a recent survey that we did about investments in the Eastern Caribbean securities market showed that of the securities, 98.5% are invested by institutions, which means only 1.5% by individuals. We need to see more people involved in the stock market at a regional level. And I want to make the point, in bringing them to the market, they are not just investing in the regional market, because the regional market is small and it's narrow. The regional and international market. And that's what, for example, the mutual fund will allow them to do.
We can also take your calls. 275-8003 is the number to call. And we are also getting more questions as we speak to the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. I'll take some questions from the public in a short while again, Governor. But I wanted to look at we were looking earlier at the financial sector. We looked at banks, and you mentioned credit unions. I want to look at the credit union movement and how it fits in all of this. The credit unions, of course, are part of this financial landscape that we speak about. I'm asking this because I can recall presenting you sometime, I think it was last year, and one of the items looked at credit bureau operations in the ECCU, I think, to begin sometime this year. I'm not sure it has been. So what is the status of this?
The credit bureau is coming. In fact, it's already started work through the credit reporting bill, which has been passed in Dominica and in, I believe, 7 or 8 countries. So I just think it's 1 country left, Angola, to pass. That the operator for the credit bureau, Everyday Data, has been licensed by the ECCB and has now begun to arrange what they call subscription agreements with financial institutions, banks, credit unions, utility companies, and others. So the credit operator has started And you will hear a lot more in the next few months because they will be doing a big marketing campaign and so on. But right now, they are actually negotiating, finalizing agreements with various banks. So I know a number of banks here have already also they started to engage them on that. So the credit bureau is coming, it literally has started work. The public will hear and see more of it.
But how different the government is, the regulatory framework with credit unions, I would say?
Well, the credit bureau is available to the credit unions. So it doesn't matter who the regulator is. The credit unions can have access to the credit bureau. There is an agreement, there are terms, there's a particular service, a subscription service, you pay a fee to be able to get access to the credit bureau. For the customer, I think you get one free report every year, I believe. So it doesn't matter. The ECCB, the FSU here, whatever the regulator, the credit unions can in fact be part of the credit bureau. And we want the credit unions to be part of the credit bureau because we understand the value a credit bureau brings. The fact of the matter is wherever a credit bureau has been established around the world, credit has increased. It facilitates credit. Given the role of the credit unions, its important role, their important role, the movement in our region, we believe that they too should be part of the credit bureau. And in my discussion with credit unions, they want also to be part of that. So while the credit bureau has started with the banks, because they're the largest, 80% of our financial system consists of our banks, it is very clear that credit unions and others, insurers and others, can be involved, should be involved. And so far, they started to engage these financial institutions.
Governor, I want to move on to another area. There are small businesses that experience difficulties in getting access to credit. But I will quickly add, though, that in Dominica, and I can speak for Dominica, of course, we have a small business support unit. And as recent as last year, I think a $27 million loan facility was launched to assist small businesses. But what is being done from the ECCU's end to provide small loans, because a lot of small businesses have a hard time getting access to credit?
Yeah, it's a very important issue, and something we hear all the time. Access to credit is an impediment, it's a big issue. What have we done lately? In October 2020, we launched the Eastern Caribbean Partial Credit Guarantee Program. What is that? Essentially, small businesses can access loans up to $750,000 with a guarantee of between 75 and 80%. Those loans you have to be done, the guarantees, through your financial institution. So whether it is your bank, your credit union, or your development bank. In Dominica, NBD and Republic have already signed up and are now part of that program. NCCU is having the discussions now. And in fact, as I speak, the CEO of the Partial Credit Guarantee Corporation and one of our team members are in Dominica and will be having meetings on Thursday and Friday of this week with key players on this program. Our intention in designing and launching the Partial Credit Guarantee Program was to provide access to credit to small businesses, including farmers and fishers, creatives, women, startups, and the loans could be as small as $10,000, $50,000, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, or $750,000. So, and the key here is that the loans, the guarantees are made through your financial institution. So you have to go to your bank. And I would urge people who have an interest to ask your financial institution, NBD, Republic, well, soon NCCU, for the product. What about the partial credit guarantee? And so that, because what has happened in the past, and what the motivation for this was the fact that not only were people complaining about lack of access to credit, but very often, especially for small businesses, they lacked collateral, they lacked connections, they lacked a track record. Because if you're starting a new business, you don't have a track record, people will deem you as high risk. Yet for all, you may have a great business idea that needs support. So the partial credit guarantee is intended to reduce the risk of these for the financial institutions so that they can make the loan. with the knowledge that they have a 75 or 80% guarantee. So if you borrow $100,000 in that program, you qualify for the guarantee. The financial institution, your financial institution, will get a guarantee of 75,000 or 80,000. So the risk for the bank is significantly reduced, because in the example of 100,000 now, what is exposed capital at risk is really 20,000, not 100,000, or 25,000, not 100,000, depending on whether it's a 75 or 80% guarantee. So that is a very important facility, we believe, to help small businesses in the region. And again, we are encouraging the banks to share that information. I know there is they've just, the corporation recruited a marketing agent to help them with marketing the product, because 2.5 years in, many people do not know about this program. And that has to change. And we want to see. So far, I think when I looked at the numbers, the guarantees issued in Dominica so far, I think there have been 7 guarantees valued around just over $400,000. That's a start, but we could do better. We need to do more, a lot more. And that's what we expect.
An aggressive marketing campaign has to be launched. You're listening to Conversation with the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Timothy Ng. Antoine, we'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
The future is here, everybody must be aware. The cash taking easy digital, you don't need to use money physically. You could use your phone to send, receive, and so much more. The cash safer, faster, cheaper, so get it up on your mobile phone. Everybody rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. We spending easy dollars digitally, rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. We spending easy dollars digitally.
The EC dollar is digital. Make payments safer, faster, and cheaper with Dcash.
The future is here, everybody must be aware. The cash taking easy digital, you don't need to use money physically. You could use your phone to send, receive, and so much more. The cash safer, faster, cheaper, so get it up on your mobile phone. Everybody rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. We spending easy dollars digitally, rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. Everybody rolling now with the cash. We spending easy dollars digitally.
The EC dollar is digital. Make payments safer, faster, and cheaper with Dcash.
You're listening and viewing Conversation with the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Timothy Ng. Antoine, we have covered a lot, and of course, time will not permit us to cover that much again. But Governor, I want to ask though, I want to move on to another area. The economy is becoming increasingly digital, of course, for want of a better term. So I want to look at this. And what are you seeing?
Well, that's
the digital economy.
Yeah, that's the future, and that future is now. We have built out a digital economy in Dominica and the currency. That's where the world is at, and we can't be left behind. And I'm going to be very clear. In this digital economy, we cannot be simply consumers. I say this all the time. We have to be producers. So, the easiest thing is to go on Amazon and click and buy. That's consumption. What are we selling on Amazon or eBay? That's an important discussion, because the world is our global market. So we have to position ourselves in terms of skills. One of the legacies of the pandemic is the fact that people can work from anywhere in the world with a good internet connection. So Dominicans can work from Dominica for US, UK, Canadian companies, Chinese companies. Dominicans who are in the diaspora can come home for months at a time and work from home. That's important, we believe, for that seizing the opportunity in the digital economy, but also helping to grow the local economy. What will it take to double the size of the economy? It will take digital transformation, for example, like I just alluded. In doing the build-out, we have to look at enablers, like skills, like finance, but we also have to look at safeguards, like cyber security. and data protection. And we are doing work with the World Bank through the OECS, CARICOM Impacts, ECTEL, and so on this area with the governments, our governments, because that is an important consideration. We want to digitize government. Government services should be easy to access. It has nothing to do with who knows who. You should be able to get on a computer, get on your smartphone, and access government services. Whether it's an application, whether for a license, for a passport, whether it's to pay your taxes, you should be able to do all of these things online. That's important. It's time and money, and ultimately, if a tourist is coming and a tourist wants to be able to make a purchase, buy a craft item, they may not have US dollars, they probably don't have EC dollars, but they have their smartphone. They ought to be able to make payments using that. If you're not in that space, you're going to lose the sale. You're not going to get a business. Tourists are not going to walk around with wads of cash. That's not advisable, certainly. But they will have the ability to make payments through a smart device. So practical ways for people to benefit. If you end up on a farm and you want to buy produce, or you want to buy some guava cheese or some sugar cake or some whatever, juices, you want to be able to make those payments. Practical examples of how this should work for all of us, including our small businesses and our local people. So we are very keen to encourage the build-out of the digital economy. Dcash, for example, again, remember, we advocate, we advise, we act. Dcash is a project, it's an action to make payments more seamless. So small businesses don't have to purchase these point-of-sale machines and pay 4-5% for every sale. You now have an instrument, Dcash, that you can pay. You can pay the person, you can pay business to business, business to people, people to people. That's what we have delivered. And of course, we have to do a lot more marketing and all of that with Dcash. But again, we've heard people complain about these things. As a central bank, we've been trying to bring solutions to assist with these issues.
Let us look at cryptocurrency, blockchain. What are you seeing?
Well, I'm glad you raised that, because I have to address a pet peeve I have.
Is this an elephant in the room?
Yeah, this is an elephant. Thank you, Ivona. I'm walking right into that room. I hear people say, well, I've heard the governor of the central bank say be very careful with cryptocurrencies. But ECCB has launched a cryptocurrency. ECCB has not launched any cryptocurrency. I want to be very clear to everyone. Dcash is a digital currency. What's the difference? Dcash is the EC dollar in digital form. It has the full backing of the foreign reserves of the central bank. It is your EC dollar. That is very different from Bitcoin, which has no underlying asset. And the value is determined by speculation, buying and selling. That's why it could be 50,000 2 years ago, 20-something thousand now, tomorrow it might be something else. Contrast that with your EC dollar. 1 to 2.7, 1976, 1996, 2006, this is 2023. It's the same value. So what we've created is a product that is safe for use. On cryptos, I have to be very clear. There is significant risk. So I ask people, if you are going to go into cryptocurrencies, what do you know about cryptos and the people who are investing in the area? If you have a problem, who are you going to solve it? Is it regulated? Very often it's not. Can you afford to lose this money? And for heaven's sake, do not borrow money to invest in cryptos. Because if you lose your money, you still have that debt to pay. Having said all of that, if you decide that you still want to invest in cryptos because you could afford to lose the money, that is your choice. People come to me very often and ask me, but when they ask me, they've already made the decision. All I can do is give you advice. We advise. So we have put out several advisories on cryptos. Some people have gone in and have made some money, but some people have lost money. But you can't borrow from your parents, your friends, your family, whatever, from a bank or financial credit union to go in cryptos. That's not a good idea. Don't do that. Chances are you may lose that.
You speak about this with passion.
Yeah, because I don't want to see people get hurt. I mean, life is tough. People work hard for their money. I don't want to see them get hurt. That's our role, is to point out these things. It's nice when you get out and you say, okay, I put in 100 and I got out 200 or whatever. That's the good part, but a lot of times it's also the reverse. I've lost the money. The value has plummeted. And then, you know, what do I do? Do I hold on and hope it comes back? Or panic and take it? You got to be very careful. Hard-earned money has to be carefully used, prudently used. And so, yes, I speak about this with passion because I don't want to see our people get hurt. That's why I just said all that I said. But I also said, if you determine, I can't tell you how to spend your money, I could give you advice. If you determine that you want to take that risk, with all that the advice that you've given, that's your decision. But be careful, please.
Governor, before we end, I want to go back to the international airport.
Yes.
You mentioned this earlier.
Yes.
This small island developing state is undertaking this
Yes.
major
Yes.
projects. And of course, we are in terms of the preliminary work and all of this.
Mhm.
Dominica, of course, as well, creating the enabling environment for this.
Yes.
So we have a lot of hotels for
Yes.
us, and other infrastructure development going on as well. What is your advice to Dominica at this time?
Well, let's be very clear. If you're in tourism, you have to have an international airport, right? I know it's expensive. It's probably the single largest project that you will ever do. But you can't be in the business of tourism and not have an international airport. I don't say that lightly, but I certainly, this idea, well, these small islands don't need international airports. They used to tell St. Vincent that, well, Grenada has an international airport, St. Vincent doesn't need one. Well, that's not true. I mean, you need direct connectivity. How do you get hotels into your country? To bring hotels into the country, there has to be an airport that can fly people directly. When a tourist is making a decision to come to a country, how long is it going to take? How many flights? You, me, when are we traveling? Don't we ask the same question? How quickly can I get where I'm going to go? So, it's a very competitive place. You can't be in tourism and not have an international airport. I'm sorry. So it's a very expensive proposition. It's a very long-term investment. I get that. But the truth is that if you decide you're going into tourism, you have to get into the business of connectivity. And when it comes to bringing a lift, you also have to invest in hotels. Because to negotiate a lift, it depends on hotels on the ground. It's not a chicken and egg. Hotels will come, a lift will come if there are rooms. Because at the end of the day, when they fly people, they have to stay somewhere. So I would say there are a lot of experience around the region. St. Vincent did one recently. Others, of course, exist that Dominica can draw on, of course, internationally as well, in terms of what to do and what not to do with building an international airport. But I think, and then you want to be as prudent as possible in the way you set it up. You obviously always have to think about climate. So anything that you build in any infrastructure has to be climate resilient. You have to build with that in mind. And ultimately, you have to do it in partnership with people. The development is for people. So it's important that people be kept apprised of where things are going and how things are going, and they're able to have their input in terms of design and so on. But I wish the government and people of Dominica every success. I was told this week that the airport has been promised for many, many decades. Almost every party in a campaign has said they're building an international airport. So I mean, it's been around for a while, the discussion. This is the closest we've been, Dominica has been, and I think we want to see it get through, and I have every expectation it will. So I think it's important to just draw on lessons. But you have to prepare. So if an international airport is coming, you've got to get your hotels. You've got to make sure that you're starting to prepare hospitality skills, because you're going to need people working in hotels who have to bring hospitality skills, customer service. That's very important. So you have to be planning ahead. These hotels have to be built by a certain time, because if the airport is open and you don't have hotels, then you can't get a lift because there are no hotels to put people in. You've got to train staff. What are the things that you need for a dynamic tourism product? You have to look at product enhancement. And you bring more people into the country. Dominica is a big country, lots of opportunities, ecotourism and so on. Where are they going to go? So you have to look at, so for example, the cable car thing that's going on now, that's a very important development addition to the product in preparation for. So that might be a 3-year project, but by the time that it's winding down, the airport might be almost ready. So you're starting to align these projects to give you the best development impact and the biggest benefits of the country. So again, I want to extend best wishes to Dominica in that pursuit.
Governor, as we end, let's get your closing remarks. Very enlightening conversation with you. I'm hoping that I'll get the opportunity to talk to you again some other time. There's so much that we have to discuss as a region. But your closing remarks, 40th anniversary of the ECCB, I'm sure you will end on a note of...
Right, yeah, so
joy.
This year is for the ECCB at 40th year of reflection, celebration and implementation. And our Deputy Governor, your very own Dr. Val Henry, is chairing our planning committee. We have a list of activities calendar throughout the year. And we have a song by your very own Colton T. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And so we're very excited because it gives us a chance to showcase what we as a people have done together through the ECCB. Check out the lectures. You mentioned the anniversary lectures. The one on health in Antigua and Barbuda recently was extremely useful. It might save your life. Seriously, check it out. It's on our Facebook page or YouTube channel, ECCB Connects. Check it out. Something is coming to Dominica in September. One of the lectures will be here. But throughout, we have the Regional Youth Parliament coming. I'm excited about that. 2 representatives from Dominica, well actually 3 people will be coming from Dominica for the Youth Parliament in October in St. Kitts, at our headquarters in St. Kitts. We have a virtual museum coming. We have a range of activities. And so I want to just say to the people of the Currency Union and Dominica, the people of Dominica, in closing, it's an absolute pleasure to serve you. We ask for your prayers. Yes, I'm a man of faith, we ask for your prayers. Very, very important.
We are living in unprecedented times.
We can't do, well, as the song said, we can't even walk without him holding our hand. I believe that. So I ask for your prayers, we ask for your prayers, and I ask that we come together and build together for Dominica and for the Currency Union. Let's stay engaged, and again, thank you for your warm hospitality this week. Everyone we've met has been so supportive, and I'm very grateful. I love Dominica, and it's great to be here. Thank you very much.
Well, let me thank you. It was a pleasure spending this time with you, this conversation. I really enjoyed it. Let me thank our listeners as well and our viewers, all those who contributed to this, to making this a success. Let me thank the engineers, the technicians at the GIS studio as well, and DBS radio as well, and all those who played a special role in ensuring that this went through. Thanks again, Governor, and happy anniversary.
Thank you very much, and you made me so comfortable I didn't want to stop talking. Thank you very much. You did a great job. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Long time, build the vibe with the CCB for a lifetime. ECCB 40, long time, celebrating 40, long time, feel the rhythm, feel the vibes, 40, 40, long time, feel the rhythm, feel the vibes, with the CCB for a lifetime. Everything intact, we making impact with the cash, digital currency. Quick to react, so we could relax, and that is fact. Reliable, the ECCB protects you and me in each and every ECCU country. Strong polymer currency and solar powered energy, oh yeah. ECCB 40, long time, whoa. Celebrating 40, long time, whoa. Feel the rhythm, feel the vibes, 40, 40, long time. Feel the rhythm, feel the vibes, with the CCB for a lifetime. Always coming through for us, a central bank to trust. 40 with no fuss, can't wait for 40 plus. Education, wealth creation, teach transformation. The ECCB protects you and me in each and every ECCU country. Regional brilliance and vigilance, oh yeah. ECCB 40, yeah, yeah. Long time, oh. Celebrating 40, yeah, yeah. Long time, oh. Feel the rhythm, feel the vibes. 40, 40, long time. Feel the rhythm, feel the vibes. With ECCB for a lifetime. ECCB, our financial guide. Side by side, we go match with pride. ECCB, our financial guide. Side by side, we go match with pride. Feel the rhythm, feel the vibes. 40, 40, long time. Feel the rhythm, feel the vibes. With ECCB for a lifetime. ECCB 40, yeah, yeah. Long time, oh. Celebrating 40, yeah, yeah. Long time, oh. Feel the rhythm, feel the vibes. 40, 40, long time. Feel the rhythm, feel the vibes. With ECCB for a lifetime. Everything intact, we making impact. With the cash,
Digital currency.
quick to react.